Hello and welcome to another video. Now, who doesn't like cold marinated fish in the summer when the weather's hot? This sort of thing, whether it's ceviche or some other dishes, tends to be nice, sour, refreshing, cool in the summer. And so today we're going to make a different kind of cold marinated fish. This is called Poisson, also known as otaika. Both basically mean raw fish. This particular kind of dish, however, is from Tahiti. And it's just wonderful array of flavors and such. So hope you really enjoy it. And so onto the ingredients. We have a tuna steak, and if you want a nice big meal for one person, use one of these per person. If you want something lighter and smaller, use maybe half of one. We'll probably put in just a bit of this red bell pepper. We will use some salt to rinse the fish. We'll get to that in a moment. We will also have green onion, tomato, cucumber, and we will marinate the dish with lime juice. Lime juice is also very central, about as central as the fish. So, next we're going to go ahead and cut the fish, and then we're going to rinse it with salt. So one last ingredient that we will use that I didn't quite mention is the coconut milk. And the coconut milk here, I've chosen a creamy coconut milk just because I like it, but you can use different kinds. I probably would not use coconut cream because it'll come out too thick. And if you use like a reduced fat version, I'm not really such of a fan of those, but a creamy or a normal one. If you look at the ingredients, usually you'll see something about like coconut extract, and this one says 60%. That's fine. If you get one that's like 90%, that's going to be coconut cream. And, you know, but most of the ones you're going to get are going to be between 40 and 60%, and that's fine. So I've cut the tuna steak into bite-sized pieces, and now I'm going to transfer them to a bowl. And this will probably eventually be the bowl we serve it in. Very likely, if I don't mess up the presentation at some point. Now I'm going to go ahead and salt it, and you can, if you accidentally salt it too heavily, it's not a problem because we're going to rinse it. Then we're going to come over and rinse it. And typically I fill this with some water, let it sit for just a second, rinse it around and put it out. So now the fish is washed and it's glistening a bit. I mean, I've taken the limes and I've cut them in half. I usually find 2 limes is enough, but if they're really dry, maybe you want to add a little more. And I'm just going to juice the 2 limes over the fish, stir it up a little bit, and then this is going to go in the refrigerator for about 15 or 20 minutes. Yeah, these are nice juicy limes, so that's enough. I think 2 limes will be plenty. And when you marinate raw fish with lime juice, the texture and stuff changes, and it starts to act more like cooked fish. But we're not going to go ahead and soak it for that long. So unlike ceviche, this won't fully adopt the cooked texture. But now that this is in here, I'm just going to stir it around a little bit, pack it down a little bit so that the lime juice reaches everywhere. And then this goes in the refrigerator for 15 to 20 minutes. In the meantime, we will prep our veggies. So now this has been soaking in the lime juice in the refrigerator for about 15-20 minutes. And you can see that this has changed. The color's changed, the texture's changed a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour off about half or 2/3 of this lime juice. And then I'm going to mix in some of our toppings. So I'll be right back once this is drained, and we'll go ahead and mix. Now, it's worth mentioning when we talk about draining the juice that in some cuisines, people actually drink the juice. So in Ecuador, I think it's called the equivalent of tiger milk, if I remember right. And it's supposed to be a hangover cure, among other things. I've never tried that. But anyway, I'm going to take a handful or so of these half moons that I've scooped the seeds out of the cucumber, and I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle them on top. See, this is what it looks like once you scoop the seeds out. And I think this is probably fine to add more. Have about half my tomato cut into nice cubes. I'm just going to go ahead and add them in here. And onto this, I will add some of the bell pepper. Now, a lot of people like to use green bell pepper. I just decided to use red bell pepper because I use it in a lot of other things. And instead of green onion, sometimes people add red onion. But I'm just going to take a small handful of these because they are much, 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 much stronger, and just sprinkle them on top. And then I'm going to stir this and this makes sort of like a salad. And then we'll go ahead and put this back in the refrigerator and come back in maybe another 5 minutes or so, or 10 minutes. You don't have to put it back in the refrigerator at this point, but I think it's good to just chill it a little more. And then we'll be back and we'll add the coconut milk. Look at that, look at that. Now, one thing about coconut milk, as you've probably known if you work with it, is that oftentimes the fat separates and it comes up to the top. So usually, for a dish like this, I'm going to take a fork and mix everything together in the can. You could do this in a bowl or something if you prefer. And this is actually so creamy that I might have to add a little bit of something else. But so once we go ahead and finish stirring this up, and this is probably on the creamy side, too creamy side, but that should be fine. Once I get done stirring this up, I will just spoon some in and mix it. Then we'll let it rest for about 5 minutes, and then it'll be ready to eat. Yeah, that's about right. So what I'm going to do now, just a couple of big spoonfuls. And that should be good. And if it's not enough, so because this is so creamy, I'm going to transfer this to another bowl. I am going to go ahead and probably add just a hair of water. Coconut milk is basically coconut kernel extract along with water. So if it's too thick, you can always water it down a little bit. So this is looking good. So I'm just going to transfer it to another bowl and garnish it with a little bit of green onions, I think. But look at that. And so to present, I'm just going to go ahead and spoon this into the bowl. And as I do so, it'll kind of mound up. And I think that kind of looks kind of nice. And I'm going to take some of this sliced green onion. I'm just going to sprinkle it on the top as a garnish. And of course we already have green onion in here, so it will accent the flavor a little bit. And I got a little too much here, so sprinkle those there. And here we go, Poisson cru. So here we have our Poisson cru. I think this is going to be absolutely delicious. I'm excited to go ahead and try this one. I've made it many times before, but every time it's a little different. And so I'm just going to take a spoonful of this. I've got some tuna fish, some green onions, tomato, cucumber. I'm going to get it all in one bite. So this still is very much similar to ceviche in its overall flavor profile. You have the sour fish, and that really predominates. But with the addition of the cucumbers and the coconut milk, this goes from being something that tastes very, very, very Mexican or Latin American to something that is just sort of South Pacific Islander, and it's really a delightful combination. I highly recommend it. This is delicious. Bon appetit, and see you next week.